Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
Taking Cuts with former Major Leaguer Caleb Joseph and Sportsnet analyst. So Michael Kay, the announcer for the New York Yankees, before the game yesterday said the Jays are not a first-place team. I don't care what anybody says. Basically said they're not a first-place team. They're run differential. But then they go out, rally after giving up an 8-run lead, and win the game 11-9, and they're tied for first with the Yankees. How does my buddy Caleb Joseph respond to that?
Yeah, well, the numbers don't lie, Ballsy, and I also think that I'm a +4 handicap, but I'm actually, about a 3. So I don't really care what you think or what Michael Kay thinks. I know what he's trying to say. What he's trying to say is when you look on paper, you don't see this team as a real threat in the division. Well, I have news for Michael Kay. I also did not think that the 2014 Kansas City Royals were a threat after running through Scherzer, Verlander, Price, and the Detroit Tigers. Players like Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, J.D. Martinez, Avila, you name it. We weren't scared of the Kansas City Royals, but they swept us to then go to the World Series. A year later, they win the World Series with a bunch of non-household names. So this team really knows how to win. They're starting to see the fruits of their labor on offense. It is a all-hands-on-deck type of offense. Create traffic, create pressure, and then clip one out front for an extra base hit. And sometimes when it's a home run, you get special moments like they got on Canada Day in a huge routing of the New York Yankees. But I'm buying on this team, Ballsy, because they have it 1 through 9. They're buying into their approach. Be who you are. Don't try and be anyone different. And that's a 1 through 9 approach. They have it. It's sustainable. And if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to be up top of the AL East for a long time.
So what word would you use to describe the Jays? Scrappy?
Yeah, they're unique in this day and age where a lot of teams are going for the home run. They're building their offense around the extra base hit and the slug. The number that everyone is obsessed with these days is OPS, which is on base plus slugging. Of course, all you baseball fans, you already know that. But how do you differentiate the OPS in the game? For me, most of it is slug. Well, when you slug, you open yourself up for a lot of whiff. Whiff leads to strikeouts. The Jays do not strike out. They are giving up slug to then try and put the ball in play and pressure defenses. And I think it's a genius strategy because for 4 or 5 years, a lot of these teams are going out and getting hitters that don't really truly know how to play defense under pressure. And the Jays are pressuring so many of these defenses, and we're seeing them crumble like a cheap suit. And so is it sustainable throughout the playoffs? I think it is because I've seen it happen. But hopefully it's TBD because so many teams will try and rely on that 1 3-run homer and win a game 3-1 or 3-2.
I liken it to hurry-up offense in football. Sometimes you're in hurry-up offense, and now the defense doesn't. Wait, you're not taking in the CFL, it'll be you're not taking your 20-second huddle. You're not in NFL 40-second huddle. Like what are you doing? That's why I don't know why NFL teams don't go for 2 points more because teams get rattled. They don't know what the excuse my language. What the fuck's going on here?
Absolutely. That is a perfect analogy to what's going on. And the Jays, they build innings. They build it with soft contact. They'll get a single in the gap, and then they'll draw a walk somehow. And then before you know it, that pitcher is under distress with a runner at second base. And so many pitchers are just not used to throwing and pitching with multiple guys on base. They are really used to really easy innings, 1 or 2 strikeouts per 9, and maybe a fielder makes a play. But consistent, constant pressure on the bases has really proved that it's a winning strategy for the Blue Jays. Let's see if they can do it. Their bottom of the order has been critical, and they have guys that have really stepped up out of nowhere. Guys like Miles Straw that was in AAA all year last year. Ernie Clement has really put himself in the category of potentially getting a gold glove as a utility infielder. He is hit tremendously. And this is all without Santander or Varsho. That's what a little is scary about this team, is they still don't have those two huge bats. They could be even more dangerous once they arrive. But as of right now, they've got a really good moxie going. Huge feels in the clubhouse. They're winning games. It's fun to cover.
So how much, you've been in clubhouses like that, how much can guys like a Caleb Joseph or Straw and those kind of guys, when they're going and they're scrapping and they're doing everything they can, how much can it rub off on elite talent like Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and like Bo Bichette and those guys that they're talented, but holy cow, these, like, you know, how much can it rub off on those dudes?
It really sets them up to be who they want to be, which is the hero most nights, because they don't feel the pressure to be that hero each and every night. When you have a 1 through 9 type of attack and it's a different guy each night, Guerrero Jr. doesn't go up to the plate truly thinking and believing his only shot to win the game for his Blue Jays is for him to do something. He's relaxed. He's passing the baton just like the guy in front of him. George Springer has been massive in this lineup, and I think a lot of it is because he's adapted that type of role. He came over from Houston on a huge deal, and I guarantee you he felt the pressure to really be the world champion George Springer here in Toronto. He's got some help behind him, and he's really eased into a position around 4 and 5 in the lineup where he doesn't feel like he has to be the leadoff guy and lead off with a homer and get it going and do it all. And so what happens is the pressure is relieved, and that is passed on to the next batter, to the next batter, to the next batter, and you blink, and before you know it, you've scored 4 runs, you've put up 7 hits in an inning, and you chase a starter like Max Fried out of the game thinking, wow, we just put together a really nice inning. And the analytics people have told us for 5, 6, 7 years, you can't make 3 or 4 hits in one inning. It's just too difficult. The Blue Jays are proving it's possible because they have totally flipped their approach. They're giving up slug, going for contact. It's working.
A couple more quick questions for you. So you talked about the stress on pitchers and maybe the defense out there. Talk about the stretch or the stress on the catcher. Because the pitcher will roll in, you know, now they got to stay in for 3 batters now, but the next guy comes in. But that back catcher is there the whole time. He's calling the game. He's managing the game. Talk about the stress that he'll be under when there's lots of guys on base. When for like 3 or 4 years, you're used to it's long ball baseball. Now all of a sudden you run into the Blue Jays as holy crap, there's somebody on base all the time.
Yeah, I remember the Minnesota Twins making me feel this way, the Kansas City Royals, even the Tampa Rays about 10 years ago made me feel the way that I guarantee you the Jays are making current catchers feel, and that is just think fast, think fast, think fast. And especially with the pitch clock, they're having to think even faster. And the thing about the Major League game is it's moving much quicker than the minor league game, but it moves at a pace that you cannot even imagine once innings start to roll. And when I say roll, I mean the leadoff hitter gets on, 2 pitches later, a single to right field, 1 pitch later, double down the left field line. Now you've already given up a run. You have runners at second and third, nobody outs. That's when the wheels really start to spin super quickly because you're trying to think, okay, man, we've got a base open, but I really want to keep this guy out of a huge inning. I just threw that guy a fastball. He hammered that. The slider wasn't working very well. That was a hanger to the other guy. We haven't really tried the changeup, but the changeup doesn't match up to this hitter. Oh, my goodness, what am I going to do? And there's so much going on super fast. And I will be honest with you, I think it's kind of caught up with the Yankees catchers in the last 3 games. Ben Rice made his 4th start at catcher for the Yankees in yesterday's game, and you could just feel it speeding up on him. And it's one of those positions that you have to have experience to know how to slow it down, take a mound visit, know how to get the pitcher back into his groove, and you're trying to limit weak contact. Well, guess what the Blue Jays do? They make contact. So it can really drive a catcher crazy because a lot of times when you are building these big innings, you need strikeouts and you need whiff. That's how you kind of suppress a offense that's rushing. A whiff is always kind of like a double play. The rally killer is the double play. The whiff is an additional rally killer. But Blue Jays don't whiff, and they don't hit into a ton of double plays. So you are on offense, pushing, charging that entire time. It's got to be absolutely drives catchers crazy. I guarantee it.
20 pitchers have had 3,000 career strikeouts. The third active guy to do it was Kershaw just last night. Of course, the other ones are the Jays, Scherzer and Justin Verlander. Where would Kershaw rank in terms historically of pitching, in your opinion? Like, I know there's been a lot of guys that pitch. You can compare eras. Is he a top 10 pitcher of all time? Am I stupid when I say that?
No, you're not stupid. That's how we feel in the current era, so to speak. Players that played during the time that he played, that's how we view him. We view him as a Verlander, Scherzer type, and at his peak, he potentially was a little bit better than those two because he was left-handed. Mm-hmm. And the uniqueness of his curveballs, cutter, changeup, he just had such unique pitches. I'm talking as if he's gone. I mean, he's still doing it, which is absolutely mind-blowing that it seems like he's been a Dodger for 3 decades now. He's been able to withstand the test of time. I do think that what people are going to hold on to or really debate is he's been a very, very, very good regular season pitcher, and there's not a ton of track record in the playoffs. And when you have the elite type of regular season career that he's had and you match that with elite postseason dominance, I think you're talking about a top 10 of all time ever. The problem is that second half of that equation is missing a little bit, whether it's been due to injury or just flat out struggles in the playoffs. He hasn't really been one of those dominant postseason. It's like a Pedro Martinez type that just finds a way to strike out 12 in a random game 4 to force the series back home. Those type of scenarios. Kershaw's been a bit MIA as it pertains to the playoffs, and so I think you might stretch it a little bit in those brackets in terms of 11 to 20, 11 to 25. I think is probably closer to what I'm thinking, just based off of the lack of playoff dominance.
Okay, lastly, I'll let you go. It's game day. Trade deadline's coming up. What do the Jays need to add? Not necessarily in terms of players, but what would you like to see them add?
Yeah, Ross Atkins met with the media before this series in New York. He mentioned a right-handed bat potentially off the bench. And guess whose roster spot that potentially looks like? Davis Schneider. And guess what Davis Schneider did last night? He hit 2 home runs. Mm-hmm. And so he, I think, feels the heat a little bit, and we've seen spurts of Schneider for the Blue Jays where he could be that right-handed bat off the bench for John Schneider to really put one in the seats late in the game off of a tough left-hander, etc. But I do still believe that they might try and go out and find a right-handed bat. One thing that nobody's talking about that I think is a potential possibility for the Blue Jays is finding a true leadoff hitter, probably a player that could play left field, someone like a Clase, except with way more experience that knows how to lead off. I think essentially they would love to move Bo to second, Vladdy to third, and then just start to filter that lineup throughout, possibly Springer, possibly Kirk. But a true leadoff hitter, getting Bo out of the leadoff hitter, I believe he profiles more as a 2-hitter or a 4-hole hitter because he loves to hit with runners in scoring position. Nobody's talking about this, but I really think that they might target a true leadoff hitter like Arise. I know they've liked him in the past, and that really would set their lineup up really, really nice. They're talking about a big right-handed bat. I think it could come in the form of a small leadoff hitter to really jumpstart their offense, keep Springer down in that 5 or 6 hole, and then, man, when Santander comes back, who knows? This lineup could be really, really dangerous. Well, so keep your eye on that.
Arise fits into, like, Arise, I know him well watching the Padres. He fits in perfectly to how the Jays are playing baseball right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had a trade lined up, Arise and Cease, for about 4 or 5 Blue Jays, 3 of which are on the Major League roster, and I don't think the front office could actually pull the trigger. I think it was really close, and that's the leadoff hitter they're sort of looking for. Springer could potentially be that, but I think he's so comfortable in this 5 and 6 hole and what he's doing and how he's changed his approach. So I think they really want to keep him there. So I would not be surprised if maybe they called the Padres and just poked around and saw what they were thinking. Who knows? AJ Preller, who knows what he's going to do. But it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks if that's the route they go.
So in baseball, one more. In baseball, like you see in hockey, they I think they move the trade deadline up a bit so that a guy can come to a team and kind of get acclimatized to the situation. In baseball, can you make a trade near the trade deadline and the guy have an impact? Like, I'm interested to see, generally, do trades work at the deadline generally?
Oh yeah, I can remember vividly trading Eduardo Rodriguez, who now pitches for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was with us in Baltimore. We traded him to Boston for Andrew Miller, who came over and was this eighth inning guy for us. And man, we knew we needed one more dominant arm in the pen. We loved where we were at on offense. We were set. We just needed one piece, and that was a dominant eighth inning guy. We went out and got that eighth inning guy. We ended up winning the division, ran away with it, and then made a really deep run into the playoffs. And it absolutely works. But I've also been on teams where we have traded some really nice players. We traded Josh Hader to Milwaukee, I believe, and that trade did not work out. I've been a part of a number of those. But we were in different situations, though. We knew we were going to make it. It was just trying to make a deep run versus trying to beef up what looks like a possibility of making the playoffs and trying to limp towards the finish line. This hopefully is not going to be the case for the Blue Jays. Hopefully they feel like they want to take a deep run and they make a real big splash versus just a B- type of guy. I would love to see a rise in Toronto. I have no idea if that's even plausible, but I think they're going to go big versus just try and incrementally make the club better. I think they like where they're at, and if the upgrade comes, it's got to be a massive upgrade to not disrupt the chemistry that this specific team has.
Well, I wouldn't like a rise in Toronto for obvious reasons, but I get what you're saying. Hey, buddy, thanks for your time. Enjoy Toronto.
All right, you got it.
Steven Dunbar Jr., where are you headed as I'm talking to you right now?
I'm in the facility, man. I got a little extra work I got to get done, so
Okay.
just kind of getting around the building right now.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So what kind of extra work are you working on without giving away any trade secrets?
Today, just doing like some correctives, some stuff like prehab stuff, keeping the body, you know what I'm saying, mobile and healthy, man. Just stuff like that.
No, you're not an old guy, but you gotta mature as an athlete. How is that?
Yeah.
How has that happened for you in terms of looking after your body? Have you always been that way, or have you grown to do that?
I've pretty much been like that since college. I had some really good like strength coaches in college that kind of emphasize on us like taking care of our body and making sure that our body, doing mobility, doing exercises to prevent injuries rather than trying to be reactive, just being proactive. So pretty much I would say since college, I pretty much was kind of on that
Awesome.
that trend towards taking care of my body.
Yeah, and so it's funny because when you're in college and everything like that, you are really locked in at the facility. You're either going to school or you're at the facility, right? When you get to the CFL, you have a little bit more free time on your hands. So guys have to be really disciplined. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you're not disciplined, man, you definitely got a lot of time on your hands. So, I just try to keep myself on a schedule. We usually have like a schedule throughout the week. Day two, day one, day two, then three, and just having a like routine that you do on each of those days to kind of fill the gap with time. So it's like I got a free schedule, but I kind of try to keep it as structured as I can. Because like you said, it can get pretty. You can have a lot more time on your hands for sure.
Could get away on you. So what do you do to stay locked in? Like, what do you do in your free time? Maybe that's not football related.
To be honest, I don't really get a lot of too much free time, but if I do, like I kind of just hang out with my teammates. We like to hang out and do different stuff like that. Grab food, watch football. I've been watching football a lot lately. On my free time. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I don't really get a lot of free time and just kind of just kick it. It's like usually like, you get enough time to like take a breath and
Yeah. So
eat a meal and get ready to come back to it.
So if you're eating food with your guys, what's your favorite food to eat, Steven?
Jeez. Man, we've been tearing Cactus up lately, man. I've been doing the Cajun chicken sandwich at Cactus lately. But I'm a big pasta guy. I like pasta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
when you're in Regina, you got to check out. It's called Smoking Outlaws. It's like
Okay.
a barbecue place. I know a lot of the riders
Smoking
pop in
outlaw.
here. Yeah, it's on Dudney Avenue. So when you come to Regina,
Okay.
make sure you go check that out because that's a lot of the guys from back in the States like that for sure. Hey,
Okay. Okay. Smoking outlaw.
Independence Day coming up here on
Mm,
Friday.
mm.
What's your favorite thing about being an American?
Favorite thing about being an American? Wow, that's a tough one. It's I guess a lot of reasons, man. I think being an American, you know, especially growing up down south, I think the culture around football is so great.
Mhm.
Just like growing up around that culture, especially being in New Orleans, you know, you kind of you born with a football in your hand. You're born a Saints fan, so I think that was one of my favorite things.
Mhm.
Um, Also, just you know, the pride that we take in being, you know, U.S. being like, you know, a lead nation in a lot of areas, especially with like athletics. I
Mhm.
think yeah, it's just sports and athletics. I think it's like one of the big prides of the U.S. and I think that's something that I think would be my favorite part about being an American.
Okay, what do you like about coming to our country and playing our brand of football, the CFL?
Um, Honestly, man, I as a kid, I didn't know anything about CFL football, but coming here, um, the CFL has created a nice community of people who actually do love football, especially like cities like Regina, cities like Hamilton, cities like Edmonton. So I like that. I think that was my favorite part about, you know, coming up here is like to come and discover that there is, you know,
Mhm.
there's a pretty good fan base of football lovers here. So that's, you know, my favorite part.
How do you like the waggle and the running start in the Canadian Football League?
It took a little getting used to at first, I'm not gonna lie, but now that I'm kind of like getting more acclimated with it, it's actually like a pretty good tool, and I'm learning to use it as an advantage, you know, when I play.
So you're back in Edmonton, second tour of duty. What brought you back to the Alberta capital?
Just the opportunity, man. You know, we got the opportunity to come and play, and shit, it was a place that I can, you know, I known, you know, I had knew from previous years. I really had fell in love with Edmonton, the city, and the people that I met here, and I knew that this could be a good place to, you know, come back and play. So I just, you know, jumped on the opportunity when it came.
Hey, Stephen, do you get the history of that team? Now you got Chris Morris, the president who used to play there, and they're trying
Hmm.
to, really dig down into that history of the Edmonton Eskimos football team and how great they were. Have you got an appreciation of how great that team was and how you guys are striving to get back there?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you feel it even around the city. You know, you go out to, you know, grab some wings or you know, you meet somebody walking in the airport that's, you know, was big Eskimo fans. They tell you all these stories about how,
Mm.
you know, packed out, you know, the stadium used to be, how diehard the fans were, and how much they love coming to the games, and how much, you know, they're used to this, you know, this organization and this team being a winning place, and
Mm.
you can't get around it, man. I mean, the city itself will let you know. So.
Yeah, how much pressure are you guys under to like you're a professional football player, you're getting paid to play a kids game, so there's always pressure. But how much more
Mm-hmm.
pressure is it to win and get that fan base back? Because I think you're only a few wins and some excitement away in that city from them coming back.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I would be lying if I said it's not. You don't feel the expectation for winning here. You do feel it. Not even just from the coaching staff and and just the organization itself demanding that of us, but you just could feel the energy that is something missing here. You know what I mean? In Edmonton, and they waiting on our team to turn that corner so they can get behind us, so they can support us in the way that they really would like to.
Mhm.
And I think that's where the pressure comes, at least in my opinion. It's just like you can feel that, that when you walk through the streets, you go to restaurants and places, and people, they're still excited to see us and happy to see us, and just like you can kind of see it on their face when they talk about our games. It's like, man, I wish y'all would just like give me something to do. You know what I mean? Especially now since hockey is over.
Yeah,
They're looking
exactly.
for a team to get behind. So
Yeah.
I think that's where the pressure comes, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, a couple more quick questions for you. I really appreciate your time.
Mm.
You look determined this year. Like I've watched you for a few years, covering this league for 30, but you look really
Mm.
determined. It felt like you were playing with more mojo in that game against Winnipeg. Personally, I mean, you look really like jacked up, ready to go this year.
Yeah, man. You know, I feel like I got a lot more to prove, not only to these fans, to the league in itself, but also to myself. I think that I'm a great player. I think that I have a lot to offer this game. And I feel like I have yet to really like put that out there completely. And
Hmm.
so I just come to work and try to be consistent every day and control the things that I can control. And, I think, when I get a chance to go out there and play, just put the work, that you put in all week, you get emotional, man. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You get excited. And yeah, man, it's just, I got a huge chip on my shoulder to prove myself. And that's kind of the energy I have this year.
Yeah. So, how challenging is it to play with a Trey Ford in this sense? Like, you might have a pattern and you run that route, let's just say a dig route, okay? But then all of a sudden he
Mm,
goes over here and he's scrambling over there. And it's almost like back in
mm,
when you used to play street football, go to the red car, do a button hook. If not, go to the blue van and I'll hit you. What's it like as a receiver to play with a quarterback like that?
I mean, it's definitely, like you said, sometimes it's like, it's off script. A lot of stuff is, can get pretty off script. So you just got to stay ready and be able to, give them a place to throw the ball. You definitely got to be ready to do that. And overall, you just, like I said before, just kind of just, make sure you show up and be where you're supposed to be. And the ball come to you, you catch it. You know what I'm saying? If it doesn't,
Mhm.
just play football. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been the approach to it that I've been taking is just, go out there, do what I'm supposed to do, my assignment, and if things go another way, shit, just be ready.
That's
That's
right.
kind of like that's the mentality
Yeah,
to
that's how you got to be as a pro athlete for sure. Hey, you talked
it.
about showing yourself and showing fans and showing people around the league what kind of receiver you are. Did you identify one or two things you want to do to take your game to the next level this year?
Yeah. I think going into this year was I wanted to be a more detailed route runner, um, especially technique wise and just overall being able to be consistent as far as getting open. And other than that, just catching the ball more consistently. I mean, I thought I caught the ball well throughout my career, but I just wanted to be, to where it's not a question of where,
Hmm.
when I'm targeted, that, the consistency that comes with targeting me and the results that come with targeting me, just making that as blatant as possible. It's kind of like my goal this year.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I was going to ask you as an American receiver, when you come up here, like you're used to
Mm,
playing in a tight field, 11 men tight field. Now you got 12 guys, but
mm,
the field's wider. Is it kind of weird?
yeah.
We talked about the waggle, but is it kind of weird to just get that your head around the spacing and the fact that you don't have to be as fast, you can let the play develop and be a little slower with the spacing?
Yeah. That is a different aspect. The ball seems like it travels a long way to you here, up here. So it always feels like almost like you either jumping too early or you're waiting on the ball or you just almost think like a guy's got to be right here close to me. You kind of got to get over the fact that guys are actually covering a lot more ground,
Mm-hmm.
and you just kind of like got to be more mentally patient. Like you said, and it's a different style of football in that aspect. You know what I mean? Because it kind of changes the strategy of the game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen a little bit slower. So,
Yeah.
um, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just it's still kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and lastly, you guys haven't won a football game, but you've gotten better, I thought, over the 3 weeks. And so,
Yeah.
what can you take from that Winnipeg game? Like, you guys were toe to toe with them until the fourth quarter. What can you take positively to this game against Ottawa?
I think, it just showed us how good we can be. And, we can compete with the best of them if we just, get out our own way and execute the right way and try to minimize the mistakes. I think down the stretch, that kind of what killed us is we just, got out executed at the end of the day. And they made the plays down the stretch that allowed them to win the game and we didn't. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the encouraging part about it is if we can, tighten those areas of execution up and make a few more plays. That's, it's the sky's the limit for this team. But, still got to go out there and prove ourselves, you know what I mean? And, potential is only one thing, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
but it definitely was encouraging.
It's a slippery slope though, right, Steven? It's like you win a game and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's how it's supposed to feel. And now you get on a bit of roll. But if you lose another game, it's like, holy cow, here we go again. Like it's kind of a slippery slope, right? Right?
Exactly. And yeah, that's kind of what we had as a team. We got to see ourselves win and see the work that we put in kind of equate to a W so that, like you said, we can kind of get the slippery slope going in a positive direction and get guys, get not even just the guys, just, everybody around here in the city to get used to us. What it feel like to win a game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, Steven. Best of luck. Hey, I'd like to see Edmonton win because a good Edmonton team's good for the league. So best of luck, buddy.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.